It is important to understand this is a long process. And as of this moment, we don't know that we've prevented even a single abortion from actually happening. There are still so many other options for people who want them. The long-term process is both through law and also, maybe more importantly, persuasion.
I think that's exactly right. Unfortunately, there are people crossing state lines to receive abortion. People are illegally mailing abortion pills through the mails, and so unfortunately, we don't know if any lives have been saved. I suspect that some lives have been saved. That abortions that were scheduled for Friday afternoon did not take place, and some of those babies will be living a year from now because of that. They'll be making the progression from milk to solid foods, as my friend Sharif Gerges pointed out to me. That's around the timeline of abortions that would have been scheduled today, yesterday, on Friday. A year from now, those kids will be making that transition. A year after that, they'll be learning to talk, learning to walk, and they're going to be the best witness to life, their own lives saved because of the Dobbs decision, but only because there were 12 states that had laws that sprung into effect as soon as Roe and Casey were gone. We now need to work in the other 38 states to get laws enacted to protect those kids. We need laws at the federal level. And that's one of the reasons why the end of your question was, we now need to persuade people. That's one of the reasons why Alexandra and I wrote this book. We now, we've gotten Roe and Casey out of the way. That frees up the space for us to persuade our neighbors, so then we can enact good legislation.
Yeah, and you're talking about Alexandra DeSanctis, who's been fantastic on this issue and done great work for a really long time. I can't wait to read this book because it's really, really important. Let's talk about the legal side of it first here, because you mentioned 38 states still have work to do. There's 12 states that had the trigger laws. There are other states that we expect to kind of come on board with either close to a ban or heavy restrictions. Can you kind of give us a layout of how you see these states and what needs to be done in each?
Sure. So I think there's another 12 states that were just waiting. There's, a 30-day waiting period after Roe is overturned before the law goes into effect, or the state attorney general has to certify that Roe was overturned before the law can go into effect. And then there's a whole bucket of states where, unfortunately, they have very bad laws on abortion. They protect abortion all the way up through the moment of birth. They subsidize abortion. Laws that are as radical as China's abortion laws, North Korea's abortion laws. And then we'll have probably another third of the states that strike some sort of a compromise, laws that look like Germany's or France's. I thought it was odd that over the weekend, the president of France was tweaking the United States, where, France outlaws abortion at either 12 or 15 weeks. I forget which. So France's abortion laws are either the same as Mississippi's or more protective of the unborn than Mississippi. And that just highlights that 12-week bills, 15-week bills aren't the stopping point either. That may be the best that can be done right now, given political realities, but none of us should be satisfied if we end up with Europe's abortion laws. Those laws are unjust. And so it's a starting point. Incrementalism has to be at the service of the complete protection of every human being in every jurisdiction in the United States of America.
It does seem to me to be so important. Watching the split from, friends of mine and people on social media and all the reporting, you see it's almost as if there's two completely different realities that are in place, where one side sees, the Handmaid's Tale in action, women's rights going away, women are being crushed by the patriarchy on one side, and the other side arguing, I think correctly, that we're talking about saving human lives. How can that be the hateful side of the argument? How can it be the racist side of the argument when our policies would result in millions of African Americans being born that otherwise would not be? How do you cross that divide? Because right now, I don't think the left has even started to listen. Maybe that changes at some point. How do you do that?
I think it's going to have to happen through one-on-one conversations. This weekend we'll celebrate the 4th of July. There'll be lots of barbecues, cookouts, family gatherings. And unfortunately, this is going to be a topic. People are going to bring it up. And we should be prepared to give a response. We should not shy away from it. We should do it charitably. We should do it reasonably, but we should bear witness to the truth. We should be ready to have those conversations. I also think the law is a teacher. The reason why people believe some of the outlandish theories that you were just rehearsing, it's because of propaganda. It's because of, lies that have been told, but that the Supreme Court reinforced. Both the Roe decision and the Casey decision said that equality meant sameness, that women, to be equal to men, had to be able to walk away from sexual activity the same way an immature, irresponsible man can walk away from sexual activity. When in reality, what we need to do is have a culture that respects both the male and the female way of being embodied, that sees our children not as threats, not as people who are attacking us, not as people who are imposters in the womb, but as people who are our children, that we have duties to, that we love, that we care for. And the law can teach that. I think as we see more and more states passing things like Texas's both heartbeat bill and the Texas Alternatives to Abortion program, Florida's fatherhood initiatives that Governor DeSantis signed into law just about a month ago. There's a lot we can do via the law to teach the truth about our embodiment, teach the truth about the dignity of human life, teach the truth about not just our rights, but also our duties and our obligations.
As I mentioned, I can't wait to get a hold of the book. It seems like what you're trying to do here is to arm people for those conversations, right? To let people have a vision of where these arguments can go, what the facts are on them, help people understand that it's not easy to navigate a conversation like this, especially with someone who's really passionate on the other side. Is that kind of the idea of the book?
That's the exact purpose of the book. Back in the fall, we could count to 5. We said there's finally, thank God, 5 votes to overturn Roe and Casey. We're no longer reliant on the Chief Justice. With Ginsburg having been replaced with Amy Coney Barrett, we now can count to 5. And that means there's a new day in America. There's a new conversation that can now take place. And Alexandra and I said, look, our part in that conversation, we're scholars, we're researchers, we're writers. We're going to write the book that can equip everyone to then have those conversations, to be persuasive. We're in the convert making business. We want to convert people to the pro-life cause. We want to convert them to the truth about the dignity of that unborn child, about the equality of that mother, right? Who should be respected in her own embodiment, who should be supported. I mean, solidarity is a key part of this, both through public policy and through charities and through pregnancy resource centers. It's all of the above, all hands on deck. No one can sit on the sidelines right now. And the book is, our contribution to that project, and lots of other people are making lots of other contributions.
Ryan, I'm a known pessimist, so I will say I went through my entire life talking about this issue often and never believing I would see the day that Roe versus Wade was actually overturned. I mean, after missing in the Casey era and missing on several justices like the Chief Justice, who really didn't come along on this. I mean, he really took a separate route. All of that disappointment and failure was constantly backed, though, by people who were so active and worked in this field all of this time. I mean, if this was a left-wing movement, it would be studied for decades and decades and decades to come as a model for how to, within the system, go through and make a major societal change. I mean, are you just amazed that this actually happened?
It is amazing. And you're entirely right. Conservatives, pro-lifers had grounds for pessimism, given how many times the football had been snatched away from us, how many times we thought we were about to win at the court and then we lost. But thank God for all of the people who didn't lose hope. And I think hope is the right word here rather than, optimism. I think we had grounds to be pessimistic, but we also have ground for hope. I mean, hope, the theological virtue. And I think it is so wonderful that there were people who didn't lose hope, who didn't grow despondent, who put their hand to the plow and who did the hard work. 50 years ago, starting the March for Life, for the past 49 years, bearing witness to life, working to get the right people elected, working to make the right arguments, writing the books, organizing the coalitions, running the 3,000 pregnancy resource centers all across the United States. Friday afternoon, after the decision was handed out, I just did a quick tweet. You only get 280 characters when I just rattled off maybe a dozen people who I thought played a huge role in this. And you could have kept going. And some people did. They kept adding names, and the Twitter thread kept growing because there are so many people, and so many of whom we will never even know their names. Right? They are nameless, faceless people who did their small part, and it made a difference. And thank God for them.
It really is incredible. And it can get you emotional thinking about it. Yep. It was such a long road and such a long road to come. Last question here for you, Ryan, and this one I will say is a little sensitive. Are you going to be able to keep this book in the Amazon bookshelves this time? I mean, you're not going to get pulled once again, are you?
I mean, I hope not. I mean, they sold my previous book, When Harry Became Sally, for 3 years. And then all of a sudden they discovered that it violated their content policy. We did already have the distributor of the audiobook cancel the contract. After the Alito draft was leaked, the distributor said, we're no longer distributing your book. And so, the publisher of the audiobook had to, scramble to find a new distributor. And this is one of the things we highlight in the book, that abortion has corrupted our economy. It's corrupted our culture, where, people who claim to be like Amazon, the everything store, put their thumb on the scale. platforms that claim to be platforms, not publishers, they censor pro-life viewpoints and they boost pro-abortion viewpoints. And so abortion has corrupted everything. My hope is that this book will remain available. It is available right now wherever books are sold. So get it before it's gone.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend go out and get it right now. And I mean, if that doesn't highlight how difficult this is going to be, because I mean, it's not just winning the conversations, it's also trying to get the conversations to be able to be heard, because so many are going to do so much to try to silence them. Ryan T. Anderson, president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center and co-author of Tearing Us Apart, How Abortion Harms Everything and Solves Nothing. It dropped today. Make sure while it's still there, you go out and get it right now, or one of Ryan's other great books, which you can find still. It's just a little bit harder. Ryan, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you'll be sure to see similar videos from Blaze TV, with the added bonus of signaling YouTube that your voice and opinion still matters. And if you're looking for more great conservative content, check out one of the 2 videos suggested here.